Welcome to Flight Lorexwat. My name is George. Today we're talking about one tiny detail on airplanes that almost nobody notices, but it secretly plays a huge role in keeping passengers safe during flight. Have you ever looked closely at an airplane window and noticed a tiny little hole near the bottom? Most people see it and think it's either damage, a scratch, or some kind of manufacturing mistake. But the truth is, that tiny hole is completely intentional, and without it, airplane windows could actually become dangerous during high-altitude flights. So, why do airplane windows have tiny holes? To understand that, we first need to understand what happens to an airplane at 35,000 feet above the ground. At cruising altitude, the outside air becomes extremely thin and freezing cold. Temperatures outside the aircraft can drop below minus 50 degrees Celsius, and the air pressure outside becomes much lower than the pressure inside the cabin. If airplanes didn't control cabin pressure, passengers would struggle to breathe normally. That's why modern aircraft are pressurized. The cabin is filled with compressed air to create a safe environment for passengers and crew. But this creates a huge pressure difference between the inside and outside of the aircraft. Now, imagine that pressure constantly pushing against airplane windows for hours during every flight. That force is incredibly powerful, and this is where airplane window engineering becomes very important. Most passengers think airplane windows are made from a single piece of glass, but actually, airplane windows are built using multiple layers. Usually there are 3 layers. The outer pane handles most of the cabin pressure. The middle pane acts as a backup safety layer, and the inner pane, the one passengers touch, is mainly there for protection and insulation. Now here's where the tiny hole comes in. That little opening is called a bleed hole, sometimes also known as a breather hole. It's usually placed in the middle pane of the window. Its job is to regulate air pressure between the layers of the window. Without the bleed hole, pressure could get trapped between the panes. Over time, that trapped pressure could weaken the glass and increase the risk of damage. But thanks to the bleed hole, pressure equalizes properly between the layers. This ensures that the outer pane carries most of the stress, while the inner pane stays protected. In simple words, that tiny hole helps distribute pressure safely. But that's not its only purpose. The bleed hole also controls moisture. During flights, temperature differences can create condensation inside the window layers. Without proper ventilation, the windows could fog up badly. The tiny hole allows airflow between the panes, helping moisture escape and keeping visibility clear. So yes, that tiny hole helps pilots and passengers see clearly during flight. Now imagine how many flights happen every single day around the world. Thousands of airplanes carrying millions of passengers through extreme weather, freezing temperatures, and enormous pressure changes. And one tiny hole quietly helps airplane windows survive all of it. It's honestly amazing how such a small feature can have such an important job. This is one of the coolest things about aviation engineering. Sometimes the smallest details are the most important ones. Airplanes are designed with incredible precision, and almost every tiny feature has a purpose, even something most passengers never notice. So the next time you fly somewhere and look out the airplane window, take a closer look at that tiny hole, because that little detail is part of the reason modern air travel is so safe. And now, you know the secret behind it. If you enjoyed this video and want more aviation mysteries, flight secrets, and real airplane facts, subscribe to Flight Lorexwat and join us for the next flight story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.